Trump administration has ordered a nationwide review of all tenants in public housing who are receiving Section 8. The goal is to root out tenants who are here in the country illegally and receiving housing assistance by way of Section 8. HUD, or the Department of Urban Development, which oversees public housing, receives its funding from the federal government. There are 3,300 housing authorities across the nation, with the New York City Housing Authority, better known as NYCHA, being the largest in the nation. Trump is threatening to cut this funding unless provided the documentation certifying who's in these apartments and whether or not they're here illegally. So the newly appointed Secretary of HUD, Scott Turner, is issuing notices to all housing authorities across the nation to provide documentation certifying who's in these apartments and whether or not they're in these apartments illegally. The Secretary of HUD says the action being taken is to ensure that what he calls illegal immigrants will not be receiving housing assistance over American citizens.
But also American citizens will be prioritized when it comes to living in HUD-funded, government-funded housing. We just sent out a letter to the DC Housing Authority, and it has been received by them. And as you said, they have 30 days to give us a full, comprehensive account of everyone living inside of DC Housing Authorities that are receiving Section 8 vouchers or any type of HUD funding. We want the names, the address, the number of people in the unit, the size of the unit, the cost of the unit, and they must give us their American citizenship status or eligible immigration status. No longer will we allow illegal aliens to live in taxpayer-funded housing here in America. In the last administration, in the Biden administration, Charlie, they turned a blind eye. They didn't collect the data, but those days are over. We are collecting the data to make sure that illegal aliens, and for that, criminal activity, no one doing criminal activity is living in HUD-funded housing, which is literally on the backs of taxpayers in America. We're going to uphold the law to its fullest extent, as you've seen with President Trump, as you've seen there with Tom Homan, Secretary Noem, and others. We're going to uphold the full extent of the law. And at HUD, we will support the president in this. Charlie, there is 18,000 units, households in DC Housing Authority right now. And it costs about $400 million of taxpayer money and assistance to housing just in DC alone. In our country, there's 3.2 million households that receive HUD funding at $45 billion of taxpayer money. And so no longer will illegal aliens be able to live in HUD-funded housing, and those that are committing criminal activity, I have a message for them. It's time to pack your bags because it is no longer allowed.
Currently, the DC Housing Authority has been put on notice, and they have 30 days in which to submit the documentation requested, certifying who's in these apartments. And up until now, those here illegally and seeking an apartment in public housing were granted these apartments without fully completing the boxes on the application requesting the citizen status of the applicant. They were left blank, and the applications were pushed forward and approved nonetheless. So the authorities have 30 days to submit the documentation requested to establish who's in the apartment and whether or not they're here illegally, along with the documentation to establish that they're here illegally or legally. To date, no such notice has been forwarded to NYCHA, but according to the HUD Secretary Scott Turner, they're on the way. So if you or someone you know has managed to occupy an apartment here illegally, you might want to give them a heads up. It's either that or risk ICE being at your front door.